I just realized something. The Democrats in this election set themselves up to fail right from the get-go, and I don't think you saw that more clearly than with the rhetoric and direction we see establishment figures like the Obamas give the party back in the Democrat convention 4 months ago. This takedown from Megyn Kelly is a true eye-opener, and I need to tell you what it reveals now as we look back on it right now.
Michelle Obama is going to be my focus. We'll get to Obama, Barack Obama too, but let's just start with Michelle. She was the star. With all due respect to Barack Obama, who's no slouch when it comes to oratory, she was the star. Normally, you have to pay $750,000 to hear her read a speech, but last night we got her for free. And she started out with a hefty dose of honesty.
We're feeling it here in this arena, but it's spreading all across this country we love. A familiar feeling that's been buried too deep for far too long. You know what I'm talking about. It's the contagious power of hope. The anticipation, the energy, the exhilaration of once again being on the cusp of a brighter day. The chance to vanquish the demons of fear, division, and hate that have consumed us. America, hope is making a comeback. Yeah.
It doesn't seem like she's been enjoying the Biden-Harris year so much. You're not alone, Michelle. But why? Why is she feeling so hopeless? Honestly, sincere question. Why is Michelle Obama so hopeless? This multimillionaire who went to Princeton and Harvard Law School, who became First Lady of the United States, who thought so much of herself, she called her own memoir, Becoming, double entendre, get it? That she's hopeless?
And here's the crazier part. The Democratic Party has ruled this country for 12 of the last 16 years, or 75%, and it's the Obamas as well as the Clintons and Pelosi's that have become an entrenched party establishment that many allege ran the show for Joe Biden from behind. By the way, I don't want you to miss out on these conversations that we have here every day, so be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more videos just like this. Now, also, I can't imagine which tone-deaf political strategist came up with the theme of joy for the Democratic Party to begin with. Because here's the blunt truth. At a time when 2/3 of Americans believe the country was headed in the wrong direction, with multiple global wars, a cost of living crisis, and a southern border being overrun, Americans wanted desperate measures for desperate times. And some abstract notion of joy just felt like playing the violin while the Titanic was sinking. There's no better example of that than what we saw at the DNC, especially after Kamala Harris practically being forced down the party and the electorate with no primary or a bottom-up Democrat process, and that too at the behest of establishment Democrats like Michelle Obama's own husband.
Then she ended any doubt that Barack Obama was maneuvering behind the scenes to oust Joe Biden, which we knew, but they haven't admitted it explicitly. This is as close as we're going to get. Take a listen to how she's been feeling about Mr. Biden's candidacy.
To be honest, I am realizing that until recently, I have mourned the dimming of that hope. And maybe you've experienced the same feelings. Is that deep pit in my stomach, a palpable sense of dread about the future.
Oh, wow. Thanks a lot, Michelle. Sure, that's what the Bidens were thinking. Not exactly a ringing endorsement of our sitting president. And what are the odds, for those of you still wondering what hand Obama had in this coup or this ouster, that Michelle Obama kept her feelings to herself, or that her husband didn't share in them, or that her husband saw Joe Biden's chances as absolutely terrific? All right. Anyway, they're happy now. Joyful, even. Word of the night, of the convention, of the election. Joyful. And of course, on brand, hopeful.
It is so artificial, isn't it? Megyn Kelly isn't the only one pointing this out. Even former Democrat voters like Joe Rogan, who have claimed to have a lot of respect for the Obamas, had to come out and admit that they've lost that respect now. And it's all because of their failure to read the room for how desperate the everyday American really is, and their snobbish talking down to their own voter base, telling them what candidate they need to accept as the nominee, or gaslighting them over racial and gender politics. And I don't think there's a better example of that duplicity and hypocrisy than how Michelle Obama lectured the American people on how much money they're allowed to make before they supposedly turn from the oppressed into the oppressor.
That anyone can succeed if given the opportunity. She and my father didn't aspire to be wealthy. In fact, they were suspicious of folks who took more than they needed.
Folks who took more than they needed. Sounds kind of communist-y, Michelle. Later in the speech, she accused Republicans of, quote, prioritizing building their wealth over ensuring that everyone has enough. See, Michelle and Kamala want to decide when you have enough. How much wealth is enough for you? And it's not until others have enough. But in America, we encourage people to work hard on the promise that anything is possible. The American dream is you can make more of your life than you started out with. There's no addendum that says, once you have what, quote, you need, what the government deems, quote, enough, you need to stop, per the U.S. government.
Honestly, that was a scarier statement than you think. It's truly a revelation when you think about it historically that American political figures would be parroting textbook communist catchphrases without batting an eye or any form of irony. Because what Michelle said there sounds a lot like Karl Marx's writing. Quote, from each according to his ability to his each according to his need. But that's the exact opposite of what this country aspires to, much less with a government that thinks it can decide the definition of your ability or need. By the way, this isn't even limited to one person because it permeates the current Democratic mindset, even as far as Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Kamala Harris herself.
It has to be about a goal of saying everybody should end up in the same place. And since we didn't start in the same place, some folks might need more. Equitable distribution. Giving resources based on equity, understanding that we fight for equality, but we also need to fight for equity, understanding not everyone starts out at the same place.
I am surprised that no one has called this out to her face. No equity is not a laudable goal. Complete equity and equality of outcome is a totalitarian communist nightmare. Equality of opportunity is what drives America, and that's what the Democrat dream was always about. Though, of course, the people telling you this won't walk the talk. The Obamas themselves are worth over $70 million, charge hundreds of thousands of dollars as speaking fees for a few minutes on stage, and have had one of the highest increases in net worth before and after the election, as reported by Newsweek.
Barack Obama later admitted on camera that, quote, I do think at a certain point you've made enough money. That's how these people think. They adorn this principle in nice language like, we need to make sure everyone has enough. And what they mean is they need to take money from the people who have worked hard and succeeded and give it to others who may not have worked hard in comparison, who may have not have done anything. Yes, there may be some people who have fallen on hard times and we have a social safety net for them. But this mindset is a little socialistic. That's the truth. And that's why Tim Walz, by the way, is the perfect running mate for Kamala. So how much is enough money, according to the Obamas? 70 million? Because public reports estimate that is their net worth. Parlayed on the back of Barack Obama's 14 years of holding political office. He did not spend 50 years in government service. He did a stint in the Illinois State Senate. He did a couple years in the U.S. Senate before he ran for office and won. All right, then he did 2 terms as president. And off of that, he's made himself over $100 million. Almost $100 million, probably over, to be honest. We don't know all of the earnings. The Obamas reportedly own 4 luxury properties. A home in Martha's Vineyard, estimated to be worth some $20 million bucks. In addition to properties in Washington, D.C., reportedly bought for $8.1 million. A beachfront home in Hawaii, reportedly bought for $8.7 million. And a home bought in Chicago for $1.65 million. Is that more than you need, Mr. Obama? Mrs. Obama?
Is it any wonder then that the American people have just switched off completely to this kind of empty rhetoric? If the Democrat establishment or strategists have any sense, well, they'll completely rethink the entire narrative of the party moving forward to be more in line with the pulse of the American people. Until that happens, we'll just keep seeing them speaking to their own echo chambers while getting defeated at the ballot box every single time. But let me know in the comments what you think this reveals in hindsight, and please share this with any Democrat voters to get their reaction. Unfortunately, in the 5 months after the DNC, I haven't seen any worthy sign of that mindset shift happening in the party so far.